Hey everyone, so learning how to do this video stuff. Here's the car sitting in the garage. First video, took it with portrait mode, didn't really turn out too well, so keeping my phone facing sideways so everything works. I'd like to go over some of the wire tuck items that this car not only has, and I can get into some of the things that are easily overlooked by most Subaru owners that can help really clean up the engine bay. You don't need to do a full wire tuck to do these kind of things or to instigate doing them. If you want to make things just easier to work on with the car, I invite you to try these. And if you have any other questions, please shoot me a comment. I can do in-depth videos on how to do instructionals and how to do just some of these in-depth things. There's a lot of little minor details, from hardware swaps to painting parts to kind of make it disappear, and I'll kind of explain that in just a second. Alright, so in my intro video, as we all know, I took it upon myself about, I don't know, a couple years ago after I went front mount and did E85 tune and kind of the turbo swap. Once I saw what I could empty out of my engine bay, I was kind of hooked on cleaning it up. And as you can see, there's one. Obviously, you know, I like purple. I am a Minnesota Vikings fan. I grew up in the Twin Cities area, even though I live in in Wisconsin, where they love Green Bay, Skull Vikes. But no, I just kind of love purple. My wife kind of turned me on to the color. It's her favorite. I grew up loving blue. Something about purple, and you can't see it in the light, this candy purple is really something special. When I started removing things, and after tearing apart this intake manifold and taking everything else apart, for those who have done this kind of work on a Subaru, it is a nightmare sometimes. It's a lot of moving parts around, there's a lot in the way. So part of the motivation was to tuck the engine bay and keep doing is, one, I like the clean look, I like the emphasis on the colors, I like that it shows off performance mods, and most of all, I like that most of the crazy tuck engine bays out there have a lot of power. So a lot of the powerful cars generally rotated manifold, where the manifold flips front, and then you have the turbo rotated and things like that. So not only are some of the cleanliness items in the engine bay good looking, but they also bring performance gains when you do a lot of these. To start with, so mostly in GD Subarus, you would have a battery. Please excuse me. This is just rough body work friend and I did. I do want to get this redone. I've thought about wrapping it as well. I might do that this winter and test out a custom fun version of black to kind of not necessarily go through the whole notion of pulling a motor and doing things. A lot of this was smoothed out. This used to be hammered, so being so low, a lot of this metal work was pushed back when I used to run a bigger tire and would try to turn full lock. Believe it or not, at this ride height, I can turn full lock without scrubbing. And it sits at only negative 3.5 degrees all the way around with this 10.5 plus 18. But on GD Subarus, what you notice missing is normally there's a washer bottle and a battery. Washer bottle I did away with a long time ago because I just didn't like the look of it. I didn't drive it in winter, and I also deleted my wipers. Made some caps for it, which I'm going to work more on mass producing, possibly for other cars. But on a side note there, no worries with that. But yeah, so I got rid of the washer bottle, and then when I did a lot of work, I wanted to do the wiring harness tuck, which used to be routed all the way up here, and there used to be the fuse box along with the battery. Not this last winter, but the winter before, I relocated the fuse box underneath the headlight and had issues with water running down. My harness was not long enough at the time to reach through the conduit box through a side and make a watertight seal. So now it is in my fender, and I'm going to redo my mounting and make some protective elements to it, as that was not perfect, and I'll explain just kind of how I went through it in future videos. And then the battery is in the trunk, and that is going to be a project in the future because, let's be honest, if you look in the comment box, or sorry, in the description box for YouTube video for my friend's clean installs, you'll see that I have quite the ratchet battery mount. It's not good. So I'll start with the colored elements. This is a Perrin alternator shroud. My wife got me these Perrin radiator stays, which are really, really nice and they match. I used to use the original one, so I have some scuffing, so I'm going to get this recoated. But this is, all this purple is powder by the pound canned purple with a crazy chrome, which is basically chrome base. Powder coated here in Waukesha by High Tech powder coating. I took the tile blow-off valve apart, which I can run a video on how to do that. That was really fun to match this. When this was the original pinkish purple color, it did not match any of this. And trust me, it looked horrible. I mean, I'm already annoyed enough with this anodized red here that does not match. And the fact that there's these. But starting on the way back, I wanted to keep the purple theme, and I did only the items that kind of pop out in the center. I could have done the black pipes, but that would have been a lot of purple. Or I could have done the purple to the black pipes, but that would have been a lot. What I kind of went with this theory is I wanted to be centralized to what looks good in the car to kind of get away from the clutter that most Subarus have. So by doing that, I added all the color and a lot of things like caps all the way from here. And those were redone in black. Same with this, which is peeling. That's just sprayed on. I need to get it actually powder coated or relocated with new coolant tank. I wanted to basically whatever I could make black, even small little hints where there's hiding that you cannot see. There's little, until I get it fully patched, there's electrical tape covering holes. You can't really see them when you get this far away. What it does is all these non-black items kind of hide. It emphasizes this color, and I think that that's really important part of a lot of tucked engine builds. So keeping with random things. So to go over the mods again, I have the Injector Dynamics 1000cc top feed kit. I have ported and polished TGV deletes. I had the composite ones originally, but they did not fit this bolt pattern right here, which is a common issue for the kit that I got. Aero motor fuel rails, aero motor regulator, Injector Dynamics injectors, 1000cc. And then I also have a Walboro 255 liter per hour fuel pump that I bought the car with in the back. Car makes 364 horsepower, 416 foot-pounds at 23 psi. I tuned from JR Tuned, aka Junior Barrios, out of anywhere, but I had to go to P&L Motorsports. But there's a lot of easy things to do with Subarus as you start to tuck. First thing, front mount, but it's not for everyone. Front mount empties out a lot of the stuff in the engine bay. But some of the easiest things that people can do is just alone. I don't remember the mounting of this, but I know that just the way this used to sit for the mass airflow sensor, that would sit funny. And then you can see the wires sitting. I don't even like it. I want to relocate this and cut it and put it underneath and keep that same position. One thing is the electronic boost control solenoid. All that normally sits here. There's a lot of clutter. If you have these pipes and you have this all apart, it's really not hard. Like if you take a few things apart, you can mount it all down here. I really hate this O2 sensor wire, but underneath all here is a lot of it bunched up. You can try to figure out a loom it. You can honestly, if you want, you can cut and rewire some of it. That's up to you, but basically it kind of gets hidden. It's all tied to it's all just zip tied to the hard brake lines because none of it's visible and it gives it a secure point. Pretty easy stuff you can do. Other easy things you can do, oops, tripping on things over here, is all this hosing right here. This is my coolant overflow. I need to make a new mount for it. Just things the way that you run the hose. Just the way you run the hose to the way you position clamps can clean up a lot in the engine bay. I rerouted up a ton of different things. I even went through and rerouted and played around with this air oil separator to get at least somewhat of an aesthetic look to the hosing. I mean, really all it takes is looking at this car when you're out in your garage, think about all your hose runnings, think about what's exposed, see what you can just zip tie to start. You know, even if it's zip tying to something else to help bring it out of the way. You know, something like this. This is a hard line to my power steering. But just to keep this from flopping around, it's zip tied. You can hide it. Most of it's black. You can't really see it. You can do this to a lot of different things. I mean, some of the zip ties, when done well, it helps keep things out of the way. I don't know what's going on with some of this stuff, but as you can see, all my breathers I tried to route strategically. I mean, like this wasn't sitting here like this, so my gas breathers, all these little things, even this connection right here, this connection was sitting in, these can freely look, but look at how they hold each other tight. No wires are being pulled, but it looks like it's all just one hard piece. It looks really, really nice, clean, like it's supposed to be there. Even little things. You have an AC delete. I painted the bracket. It's ugly under here. I want to paint the engine block black, but for now, when you're looking at the engine bay, if that piece was aluminum colored, you could probably see that it would be kind of an eyesore. Plans I want to do is I do want to relocate or recreate the filler neck. I might 3D print a new one, or I might 3D print a cap and just get rid of all of this together, as well as maybe do the chase bays, brake boost delete, and power steering reservoir. They have a nice little skinny black canister that can hide. Lots of little things. There's a lot of projects to do, filling in these holes, making some parts, and I'm going to try and go through some of the design things about how to recreate these parts to kind of freshen up this stock location original motor. Basically, I mean, the internals are new, but the motor itself is original, 187,000 miles on it. So all this to kind of clean up the engine bay. I've got Downstar hardware, all these little things. Like I said, again, here's just a little cover up with some tape, but I do run hoodless. I have been running hoodless for a little bit. It's not like it's a permanent or a purposeful thing. I do have a project with a hood that I want to do. I might go external wastegate and do a dump tube up the hood, but I have an even better idea of how to keep a legal hood and expose some of this and maybe incorporate some lighting. I do have a little bit of lighting, but there's a lot of extra things that you can do. A lot of it's hose routing, a lot of it's wire harness relocation, fuse box. That is a pretty hefty project, as the wiring, the harnesses will come through here. Some people put the fuse box inside their dashboard. That's a lot. Here's an easy one. Here's some washers. I'd remove the cap. Got a different for the alternator. There's a different connection pitched together. It's just a little fish eye hook, or whatever you want to call it. It's the kind that you use for connectors a lot with stereos. It's just a little round hook it's crimped down to the wire. Basically finished. It eliminates that 90-degree bend, that ugly red cover, and it's connected. There's nothing. I mean, it's all going through the bolt. It's not going through and contacting the surface because of these nice little plastic washers. Really, really easy thing to do to your alternator. As you can see, it looks really, really good compared to that gaudy red boot that it's got. So I definitely recommend, if you're trying to spruce up your engine bay, do that. And then lastly, before I do other things, like I said, clamps are good. Just simply wipe it down, and if you want to take apart items and you're doing work with the fuel system, intercooler, or anything like that, take the intake manifold off, or even buy one. So what I did is I went to eBay, and this intake manifold I bought for about 70 bucks. It was already painted, and while I did have some brackets here, and I sure did a new ground, I redid a ground here where it used to be, but all of this has been smooth. I cut off all the brackets, and then I used a wire brush to remove, there's still little hints here and there, but the wrinkle coating that's all the way through the casting, that is been removed. It's something smooth. You could weld and fill these if you want, cut and weld and fill that. There's a lot of different projects, and I'll shout out to Tyler Mayer in Seattle. He has a polished and engraved one on his blah wagon, and his build has been a treat to follow. I've been following him and talking with him for a long time, and I can't wait to see how that gorgeous gem turns out. But highly recommend if you can, because I sold my other one for basically what I bought the other intake manifold for. You can run your car, you can work on this manifold for as long as you want. I worked on it in the cold in the garage, and it looks I mean, this was done by hand. This took probably not. I could have used air tools. It was all Dremel. It could have been done a lot faster, but the fact that I can honestly say that all the shaving and all the cutting out of items and sanding and finishing to the finishing of the intake manifold and all some of this little stuff I can do. Like I say, I just did myself in a weekend. I didn't have anyone really telling me what to do with certain things, and anybody can do it. You just kind of have to stop, just stand outside, look at your car, walk around it, play around, touch things, have a beer or two, whatever your favorite drink is, and just kind of listen to music and chill and just kind of look at it, and go from there. So I hope you all enjoyed that. I know maybe it was a little bit lengthy. I'm kind of learning this thing. Let me know your thoughts. Leave comments. Hit subscribe. Follow me for other videos. There's going to be more. Like I said, leave comments. If I see consistent comments, I'm going to go through how I did it. I'll take things apart. I'll do instructionals on this car. It's going to sit all winter. I can reverse engineer and even redo and clean up some of the stuff that I probably didn't do so hot. And I will expose them to you, because what most people don't really admit to is all these cars that are daily drivers that we do by hand, there's things that aren't perfect. There's a lot of things I'm embarrassed about in this car, but a lot of people say it's clean. So with that, I'll leave you guys to do whatever you want. Like the video, comment, troll me if you're a friend. Oh, bring it on. But yeah, much love to everybody, and stay tuned for more.